Meanwhile, the attacks from the right on AOC are pretty much garden variety. This is where they pretend that they're ideological when it's about business. And by that, I mean, here is a guy, Justin Haskins, from the Heartland Institute, on with Steve Doocy on Fox and Friends. Now, if you don't remember the Heartland Institute, they came up because there was a treasure trove of documents that were leaked in 2012 that spoke to their strategy to fight any response to climate change. This was an organization that received at least almost $750,000 from Exxon before they started to, before in the late 90s, they stopped disclosing their donors. And they also, oddly enough, were also involved in helping smoking. So I should say tobacco. At one point, the former Heartland president wrote in an op-ed that moderate smoking does not raise lung cancer risks. And there were few, if any, adverse health effects associated with smoking.
Just got to be moderate.
Just got to be moderate.
Stop politicizing the science.
Stop politicizing it.
I got news for you.
Think clearly.
As someone who was an adult in 1998, it was quite clear that cigarette smoking was dangerous. This is not, we're not talking like the late 18th century
Gotta
or
get all the
19th
facts.
century. Yeah, exactly.
If you smoke a cigarette before the full moon outside of the distance of a woman on her period, it's actually good for your blood pressure. Science from the Heartland.
Anyways, this Heartland Institute is literally a who's who of right-wing billionaires and millionaires, and also just like the oil and gas industry, the leadership PACs. I mean, it goes on and on and on. But here is Justin, is that his name? Justin Haskins on the Green New Deal.
Good morning. It's great to be with you.
It's great to have you. You know, when you hear Green New Deal, you think, okay, this is just about the environment, right? But when you look at some of the main points, and then we'll ask you to...
One of the giveaways as to why it's not just about the environment would be the New Deal part. In fact, that's not. I mean,
That's it's sort of baked in the cake, I think you would say.
Yeah, Green New Deal. In fact, of those three words, two of them would imply that it has more to do with the New Deal than environment. But let's not get picky.
When you look at some of the main points, and then we'll ask you to comment on it, it does call for the elimination of the use of fossil fuels within a dozen years. It calls for universal health care. It calls for federal jobs guarantees, and it calls for a basic income program across the country. That is not just about the environment. That's pretty much about everything.
Yeah, that's right. This is actually not about green energy. It would be impossible to switch the entire electricity generation system in the United States over to renewable energy in just 12 years. And I think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders and people like that know that. This is really about socialism. This is nothing more than a socialist Trojan horse. That's why they've inserted all sorts of programs into the Green New Deal that have nothing to do with green energy.
Right, exactly. You know, and when you look at those things, and I've been...
Pause it again. The package is not called the Green Energy Program. It's called the Green New Deal. New Deal. Things like Social Security came out of the New Deal.
And I've been to Bernie Sanders rallies where, you know, the audience there, they love to hear what he's saying, because he said, look, you have been kept down by Washington. I'm going to open up possibilities that have never been possible before. The problem is, when you realistically look at the price, it's like, wow, can we afford that?
Yeah, well, we absolutely cannot afford it. I mean, we're talking about tens of trillions of dollars. Just the single-payer healthcare part of this alone, the Mercatus Center estimates would cost $32 trillion in the first 10 years. And even if we were to double all taxes, including individual and corporate rates, we would not be able to pay for just that one part of it.
Pause it. So one of the things I really enjoy about that talking point right there is that, as you recall, the Mercatus Foundation did say that the cost of single-payer healthcare would be $32 trillion. They also said in the same report that the cost of not doing single-payer healthcare and just continuing on with what we have now will cost $35 to $36 trillion. And on top of that, it also, that talking point has the added bonus of saying we could tax everybody 5 times over and not raise that. Well, the point is the vast majority of that money is already being raised insofar as we're taxing people at this rate. That's how, or it's being paid out. That money's going to get spent in some fashion. And based upon what the U.S. government pays now for health care, you don't need to raise a new $32 trillion. Out of the massive expense that we spend on health care, you need to raise probably less than half of that. But, he's not going to explain that part.
I always want to know who we means when they talk about how we can't afford it, right? Because he's clearly not talking about an aging senior who can't afford their diabetes medication or a struggling single mom, right? Who already can't afford health care.
I think what they're thinking is taxpayers.
Taxpayers can't afford it.
That's a dog whistle.
Yes. Oh, indeed.
And corporate rates, we would not be able to pay for just that one part of it.
Why do you think, Justin, so many of these prominent Democrats are moving so far to the left? Is it because Bernie Sanders had such a good run last time?
Yeah, I think that that's a big part of it. I certainly think it helps. But I think that the party is moving to the left. I don't think this is just political posturing. I actually think that the Democratic Party is becoming the Socialist Party of America, that it's slowly occurring, and that if we don't do something to stop these individuals, we're going to wake up in 20 years and we're going to find ourselves in a radically different America, an America that looks more like the Soviet Union and less like the United States.
That's right. Starting with throwing you in a quarry somewhere, dude.
There you
Good
go.
luck.
Like, yeah.
I'm not going to be able to wear those.
Tap some maple.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Arresting everybody with glasses would be pretty close, but I would need to get LASIK surgery.
Yeah, don't
before
worry.
that.
We'll give you a little bit of time. I'm not opposed to that.
they're not trying to create socialism. I believe Bernie and AOC are sincere social democrats, but certainly some socialist organizations, I'm not going to say who, support them as part of a wider, more long-term project to transition to socialism.
Oh, look at that! Where did we get that list of donors to the Heartland Fund? One is the this
A lot of
one is the
taxpayers.
Donors Capital Fund. I don't know where that's from, but
Sounds august.
oh, okay, that's the one. That's like the super friends of all the right wing slush funds.
That's where
But-
the Koch brothers did their first Trading Places bet.
Exactly. And the Mercer Family Foundation has given almost $6 million. Dunn's Foundation for the Advancement of Right Thinking, $1.3 million. The Lyndon Harry Bradley Foundation, 1.2. The there's an Exxon comes in with like 530.
Taxpayers.
Yeah, there you go. So,
Lots of taxpayers.
As
all right.
we were saying.
folks, just a reminder, you can support this program by going to jointhemajorityreport.com. When you do, you not only support the free show, you get the full show without commercials, and you get extra content every single day.